right, good evening and welcome. Welcome to the second edition of our community conversations, minding our resources, personal and community. I'm so glad to have everybody here tonight. We have all of our wonderful guest panelists here. And if you would, I'm going to introduce our panelists here shortly, but I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Make sure you are sending this out, emailing your friends and loved ones to come on board and listen to us tonight, to log on and watch us and just join the conversation. We have so many things going on in our country right now, so many things happening. Excuse me. Everyone's inundated with information from international news, national news, local news, social media news. And, we just want to bring the information home, bring the information to the community, bring it to the kitchen table. We want to have a conversation that is going to help us know how to manage and how to best maneuver through this time that we're in. We're in an unprecedented time, but we all have been in situations that we're not accustomed to, and we have made it out of those things and landed on our feet. And we want to to do that tonight. We want to give tools and share information that will help residents in City of Memphis and residents in District 1 really know where the resources are, what we can do at this time that will improve our situation on the other side. We're going to be talking about COVID-19 emergency relief. We're going to be talking about available resources in the community, as well as maintaining our neighborhoods and our communities. And without further ado, I'd like to yield the floor to our special guest. So I'm going to introduce briefly, and then they can go and elaborate on as they are presented. Our first panelist is Assessor Melvin Burgess. Mr. Burgess came into the office as Shelby County Assessor of Property in fall of 2018. His motto is valuing people over property. As assessor, he's responsible for locating, classifying, and appraising all property within Shelby County. Assessor Burgess is a product of Memphis City Schools and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Grambling State University. His accounting career has spanned the course of 30 years, serving both the private and public sector. Mr. Burgess is married and has 2 children, and we're so delighted to have you here tonight. And our next guest that will be speaking tonight is Miss Carla Fain. Miss Carla Fain is with Keller Williams Real Estate. She's a licensed real estate consultant and team leader for Keller Williams Realty, a global company and the #1 real estate company in North America. She has earned several designations and recognition in her industry, and Ms. Fain is a listing agent for the team, which consists of 4 agents and administrative personnel. She'll be sharing some more information about her expertise and whatever else she wants you to know about herself. And then we'll have, next lineup we'll have is Dorcas Young. She's the division director for the Shelby County Division of Community Services. Ms. Young started her career with Shelby County government in 2007 and serving in several capacities. She has served as the director of the Division of Community Services since January 2018. She is a product of Memphis City Schools. She graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill with a BA in sociology and a master's in public administration from the University of Memphis. Also, tonight we have some very special guests in specialty areas. Miss Rachel Jones is founder of the coolnerds.org, coolnerds.org. And she's an educational consultant, family life coach, and learning tour guide. She's a wife and mother of 5. Rachel has a BA from the University of Memphis in African American Studies with a minor in philosophy in 2001. In 2010, she earned a Master's of Arts in Teaching from the University of Memphis. And y'all did put a pin in those five, having 5 children. I know y'all put a pin there, so that's going to add to the conversation tonight. And last but certainly not least is Mia Madison, Executive Director of Memphis Tilt, TILTH, Memphis Tilt. Ms. Madison is Executive Director of Memphis Tilt. She has served as an activist and community organizer throughout the Mid-South region and volunteers for a host of programs and projects focused on bridging the gap between people and the environment. She holds a master's degree in anthropology and a bachelor's in geography, both from the University of Memphis, and has concentrations in applied participatory action research of urban environmental affairs and city and regional planning. So as you see, we're going to have a very colorful conversation tonight, very informed conversation, and one that's much needed in the community. And without further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Burgess if he would just kind of share with us what he does. And a lot of people don't know what the county assessor does and how it impacts the community. We want to talk about things that are going to bring value to the communities and value to the homeowners that are listening here, people that are in the community. What can we do to uplift our community? And your department really determines or somewhat assesses, is a better term, the value in community. And while we're at the house, while we're in the neighborhood, these are some things that we can spend our time doing. So we won't sit around and worry, but we can take action. We can add value. And when we come out on the other side, we'll be much better than we would have if we had just sat and worried. So with that being said, you can please share what you have with us.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman. First of all, I want to thank you for bringing us all together with this town hall. My team talked about it this morning. We started getting some ideas because as of now, I am reaching out to the state's comptroller to see what can I do to provide relief to Shelby Countyans here in Memphis and Shelby County. Of course, he let me know that that's something I'm going to have to do and really research because my office is driven by statute, meaning that there are laws per the comptroller of the state, right? So what my job really is this. My office represents or realizes or identifies 66% of the county's revenue. So I'm the one that go out and assess all properties. We have a total of 396 million parcels, which can include businesses, it includes homes, land. So that's my job to go out to make sure that I provide good assessments and assessments that are aligned to the state's DPA, which is the Division of Property Assessors, and make sure that I'm presenting those values properly. Now, one thing I learned Councilwoman, before that I used to represent District 2, Position 2, which was part of Raleigh during my first term on the county commission. So that hold that dearly to me, part of North Memphis. And I know one thing, we have a problem with our residential values. And one thing I try to tell the people, not just in your area, but in your District 1, but everywhere, is that you can appeal your assessments, meaning that, sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes we might have an additional bathroom on there that you say, I don't have the 3 bathrooms. And that's why I opened up that additional center downtown at 157 Poplar for people to come in so we can help our constituents be more astute to the process. So that's why I always have the motto that we value people over property, because I want people to understand the process. And I think myself, as a local politician, is that I think that's where I fail, or sometimes we can get together and provide information to the community. So, and of course, we all know in 2021, the reappraisal is going to come up. And believe it or not, when I spoke with the comptroller, one thing we always, stipulate or we always point out is that regardless of if we're at a standstill, guess what? Values are going up. So, when values go up, I mean, you'll probably get a new assessment. Well, I took that into consideration. So I've been having some dialogue with other assessors. For instance, like in Cook County, which is in Chicago, they're coming up with a strategy to how they can provide some relief for their homeowners for the year 2021. And we got to be mindful is when we start making these changes, with this panel here, how we plan to help, we got to make sure that, or I'm going to ensure that the plan I put forth is going to be moving forward throughout the years, because it's like something's going to be around. And of course, our communities always need the extra prescription, when it comes to house sales. Because one thing I do not like is when, people lose their homes, especially African Americans, when their parents or their grandparents have worked so hard for their homes and all of a sudden they can't pay their taxes. So I am in it to ensure that I provide some kind of relief, by way of some things. I'm looking at my attorneys at my office to make sure that we still align. So I had a press conference about that last week on my conversation with the comptroller. So we are working hard to make sure that we can provide some kind of relief for homeowners, commercial businesses that has personal property. So we want to try to, give a relief to everyone, in District 1 and in all districts in Memphis and Shelby County. And also what I did, Councilwoman, I gave some numbers just for your district, which you might think is pretty interesting. So in District 1, your total parcel count is 27,922. That's excluding personal property. Your total land value in District 1 is $3.2 billion. So your total building values is $1.26 billion. So your total count of parcels and total building values in District 1 is $4.6 billion. Now your residential, which is strictly homes, your value right at $25 million, and your land is $1.9 billion, and your building values is $571 million. Now your exempt properties, mean like churches, hospitals, the ones that don't pay any tax or get assessments, is about 742. The land value is 265 million. Your building is 103 million. So you got a total of $369 million. In personal property, these are your businesses. You have 3,394 parcels, 242.48 full appraisal, and 64,699 assessed value. And what I did, I came up with some key developments that we have on the books out in Raleigh, which looks really good. So you have over $200+ million in Amazon development, which is under construction. That's a significant investment, Councilwoman, along with the jobs expected. And the Raleigh TIF district recently approved officials looking to the next steps, potentially $1 million in tax expected revenue. And your new marketplace at Raleigh, which has the planned TIF development. And also, we're real proud, I know you are proud of the City of Memphis Raleigh Town Center. And also, there are multiple apartment communities approved and under construction. And so far, there have been 81 lot subdivisions recently approved through our office to be assessed and to be vetted. So I recommend the Raleigh area. They feel like you're on the move and you're in a really good position. And I would like to stay in conversation with you. So once I get my information back from not just the comptroller, but the ideas I have with the Cook County assessor to see how we can all vet this, with your area. But y'all are doing pretty good out in Raleigh. Doing a good job.
Absolutely. Now, and I also, my area is Cordova as well, and a small part of Fraser. So I would love to have that information on Cordova as well as the area that is listed there in Fraser. That's some good information. I appreciate that. I'll have my staff reach out to you to get that information.
Councilwoman.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I see? I supposed to have two other administrators on that maybe can get. I think that's okay. I'll just give you those numbers at a later date with Cordova and Fraser. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, that's no problem at all. And they are able to chat in the chat box as well, and it'll go to my staff, and they told me that, and they're going to forward the information. I can ask, have that information available to me. And I wanted to see if you could share some insight for residents and neighborhoods, our neighborhood association leaders, our homeowners association leaders. What are some things that can be done at the community level, at the neighborhood level, that will help to add value to communities and to residents and neighborhoods?
Sure, that's a really good question, and I'm sure if you've been following the work that we're doing over in Orange Mound with that Orange Mound Collaborative. And one thing I've learned is and soon as before this pandemic came on, we would set up a plan to get with your CDC people, your CDC, or your neighborhood associations, as well as those elected officials that represent those districts, because I found out that there is a lot of information. If you're not organized as far as your different neighborhood development corporations, CDCs, it's very difficult for you to obtain money when you go to the city council, when you go to the county commission for some of those grants. So there's a lot that we have learned, and I am really, really dedicated, or really want to give thanks to my task force, which involves 2 people from the University of Memphis, 2 doctors, as well as Henry Turley and other developers and builders, such as the Gaddis, the architect. I mean, we just have so much participation, and I'm hoping to use that as a model. And I want to I will be bringing on more my persons over the task force. I got an office set aside strictly for that. They're going to be reaching out to the different communities, because we have our next task force meeting. I want everyone to be involved, so we can all be on the same page as we move toward getting Orange Mountain on the map. We want to use that as a model that can be developed or copied for other communities. So yeah, I was just in the midst of doing it until we had this pandemic, but we are not picking that back up. We've had 1 meeting since we've gone into the pandemic. So I plan on reaching out to my office. I'm planning on reaching to all of the different community leaders, so we can make sure they're on the same page. It's a lot that goes with this. When you're asking for money, you got to get a study done. There's just a lot, because investors, when they come into your area, they want to see if it's feasible or not, a feasible study. So I'm going to be inviting all of the different CDC leaders, as well as your neighborhood development corporation leaders and the other leaders from the neighborhood that can come in and be part of the conversation, so they can be part and see, what's actually going on and what's going to be needed, so they can go in and ask for more, monies for their community.
Okay, great. Last question during this round. Some of the leaders or community leaders are asked do cameras add value to a community or certain parts of town? Things like speed bumps or cameras, or I know you just said being organized adds value to different communities, but are there other things that communities can work on that will, add value or make their area more appealing in terms of the assessment? Cameras, curb appeal, what types of things would you recommend, things that they can be working on without asking for money? Before you go to ask for money, what can you work on as a neighborhood or community?
Okay, the first thing you need to work. Okay, I'm sorry. The first thing you need to work on, which everybody looks at, even investors, they look at crime. They look to see, as far as like you said, cameras. That's a very good tool. They look at crime, and they look at, have you invested in like your neighborhood watch groups? How effective are they? Because just think about it. When you move into a community, what's the first thing you think about? You think about safety, how safe the community is. Then you think about accessibility. I mean, you think about, how accessible, how long does it take me to get from my house to the store, my house to different places where I need to go? They look at that also, which we know in our communities, that's kind of difficult. But the disparity study or the feasibility study that we're doing, the first thing they talk about is safety. So if neighborhoods can come together, come up with a plan, get with the sheriff's department and get with the city of Memphis, the city's police department, and come up with a neighborhood night out association. How can you make your neighborhood safe? That's the number one key. Of course, keeping up your property landscaping, and also making sure those properties that they might be next to you that are blighted, call to the county commission, call to the city, and complain to these different departments, and hey, look, this place has been vacant. It needs to be boarded up. I see people going in and out of it. So there's really steps for the community, to step in and be held, and hold people accountable. Who wants to live next to a house that's blighted or the grass is not growing? So that was very important, that you said about the landscaping. That's part of it also. Fixing up your home, the outside, keeping it painted, keeping it up to par. Even though we know in the Black community that values are steadily going down, like in Orange Mountain, they're going down. But it is still good to make sure that you have stuff in place as far as when it comes to the cosmetic look of your home and your community. But safety is the number one issue. Just make sure you got a well, diverse plan to make sure that you have those things in place, like you said about the cameras. And I think the thing that the city does when they do the cameras, those sky cops, that's a good tool. That's the first thing that that people look at.
Okay, and even if you can't afford the Sky Cop, if you have a neighborhood association or neighborhood watch group, if you have a neighborhood watch group, you you have access to at least $5,500 a year for your community through the crime prevention grant that's available, and that can be used for cameras. It may not be the Sky Cop camera, but it can be a camera that your neighborhood can use. So those are things that you can do at the neighborhood level. But the main thing is, as Mr. Burgess said, was to organize. A lot of times in our neighborhoods, we don't have anyone to advocate for us. In the communities, every community needs a group, whether it's a HOA, whether it's which is a homeowners
That's right.
association, or if it's a
That's right.
neighborhood association or a watch group. You can start a watch group. It only takes 5 people meeting 3 times with your local police station, and one person attend a workshop, and now the workshop is online. So and after that, you can become an official neighborhood watch group and apply for these dollars that are available that are available to each neighborhood. So consider that, and if you're interested in starting a neighborhood watch group for your area, just put that in the question box down there. We'll get you connected with the people that can assist you. But I really appreciate that information. You shared some good information, and we're definitely going to be looking for those meetings with the assessor's office in the community, bringing the information to the community to help us map out how we can continue to increase in value. I know you mentioned that Orange Mound is going down in value, but we need to know, how do we turn that around? So if you think of anything as we move through tonight, think of something that you can share to help that. We'd be glad to hear from you. We're going to slide over to Miss Fain, who don't go anywhere, Mr. Burgess, because there may be some questions that come up for you tonight. But we're going to come to Miss Fain now. If you would just kind of tell us a little bit, briefly tell us about what you do, and share with us in terms of home ownership. You've been in the real estate industry. What can you share with homeowners? We're at home now. We have so many DIY projects that we can do and things that we can do for our individual homes, to give care and TLC to the home, to add value to the home as well. And we thank you for being with us, Ms. Fain.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here with you and with our group of panelists tonight. And I am going to share some information about how we can do different projects that can bring either perceived value, enjoyment, or both to our individual properties. I am using the National Association's Remodeling Impact Report, and I'm just pulling a couple of pages from that. I didn't use the 2019 because the 2018 has a lot more information about outdoor features rather than the indoor features, since that's where our focus is tonight. Okay, next slide, please. If you will notice, there are a lot of things that we can do when we think about remodeling. Usually the pricey remodel projects come to mind. For example, we think about things like adding a pool or adding a patio or a deck. And all of those are great features. They do add value. They do add enjoyability to your home. However, I'd like for you to take a look, if you can see the chart, the first 3 items on each side. And notice that the 3 features that appeal to buyers and also are most likely to help the resale value of a property deal with basic lawn care and basic overall upgrades. And the costliest remodels are not always the ones that give the greatest return to the home buyer. Next. When we talk about landscape maintenance, we're talking about things like simple things, adding mulch, pruning shrubs, planting flowers. You know, you can plant the perennials that come back year after year, or you can plant the annuals that only bloom for one season and have to be replaced. The cost of the projects vary with the size of the yard and the materials that you choose to use. And note that the return on investment of taking care of landscaping and those type of things is 100% investment. So those are things that you can do, and you get the enjoyment from living there and having a nice yard, and you also have increased your potential value if you ever choose to sell.
Absolutely.
Next. Now, if you're looking at the costlier projects, this slide talks about the cost of a much larger project, including installing walkways, adding stone planters, flowering shrubs, and even a 15-foot tree. So that's a bigger project. It's estimated at $6,000. However, if you're going to live in the property for a long time and you're going to enjoy that yourself, you're still looking at an 83% return whenever you decide to sell on your investment. Next, please. And this one was the most surprising to me. Just standard lawn service. If you're just applying fertilizer, weed control, you can get a 267% return on your investment just for greening your lawn, keeping it edged, keeping it neat. There's a great return on investment, and if you're doing the work yourself, it's not that much of a cost. The cost that you're looking at of $375, which is an estimated cost, that's if you're having someone else come in and you have a large lot that you're trying to maintain. Next, please. Tree care is another project that adds value. It adds aesthetics. The National Association of Realtors adds a joy score, and a joy score is a score that they give a rating from 1 to 10 that shows how homeowners enjoy the results of the project. It's rated 9.2 just for tree care, taking care of your trees, keeping them pruned. And the last bigger project that I wanted to talk about is landscape lighting. That's another project that was rated really high. It was rated 9.6 out of 10 on the happiness or joy scale, bringing enjoyability to the family that lives there. And it could be just as simple as adding solar lights or lights near your driveway, which could be a safety feature as well as a beautification feature.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to wrap up with 8 very low cost budget items that you can do yourself or you can hire someone to do that also gives a great return. The first one, next, is something as simple as glamorizing your front doorway, your entryway. And that's a project that could cost you as little as $25 for paint to paint your front door. Metal house numbers, $4 or $5 to increase the beautification of your doorway, and then just adding some simple potted plants at the front door. So beautification, building your equity in your home, those things don't have to cost a fortune. They can be a combination of low cost budget items that over time can bring a lot of attractiveness and increase your equity in your investment of your home. Next one is just getting the lawn manicured. We touched on that, and that is a no cost item if you already have a lawnmower. You can also, if you want to do a one up, you can use that artificial green and green your lawn yourself, and that gives a nicer appearance. And that's something that you can do for about $30. So there are plenty of projects that don't cost a fortune that most of us can do. Tending to the flower beds, that's another thing. Bag of mulch, $3 or less. Flat of plants, $20 or less. And your sweat equity, so you're getting your exercise as well as beautifying your yard.
Absolutely.
Another thing that people don't think about is taking the garden hose, pressure washing the outside, the exterior of your house to clean away the dirt and give it a cleaner and neater appearance. And if you don't own a pressure washer, that's something that you can possibly rent from Home Depot. They rent out a lot of different types of equipment. So you could rent it for a few hours, get it done, and get it back to them. Next, tidying up the driveway. Adding sealant to your driveway gives your driveway more longevity, makes it wear better. And that's something that you can do for $100, $150 depending on what type of sealant you purchase. So that's another project. Making your windows sparkle. And this is another sweat equity project. Just you can use a garden hose to get the exterior. If you have a 2-story house, you might have to rent a ladder if you don't have a ladder. But those are things that you can get from a home improvement store. You can also rent that, a ladder possibly, from a place like Home Depot. Updating your light fixtures outside. That could be as easy as a $8 can of spray paint to spruce it up a little bit, or as little as $30 to replace the lighting fixture if it needs to be replaced. And lastly, if you own a pair of shears and you have the time, just sprucing up your trees and your bushes. So all of these are just examples of things that you can do to beautify your yard. If you start beautifying your yard, sometimes it's contagious. Your neighbors will begin to do the same. And over time, you can impact your entire community just by neighbors taking care of their property.
Absolutely. And I love the wide range of things that you shared. You shared anything from $10 or, a few dollars, $8 for a can of spray paint, all the way up to thousands of dollars. And my district is so varied like that, it's so diverse. And we have people at all different walks of life and socioeconomic levels. But at any level, you can improve where you live, improve your home. And we have so much time right now. Well, I say that we have time, but a lot of us are busier now than we were then. But we have an opportunity now that we're sheltering at home to get the kids out, to get outside and prune some of those, our senior members, prune some of those bushes, as you said, and let's add value to our neighborhood. And those community leaders, you can spark that by having Yard of the Month club, Yard of the Month contest or opportunities, or here soon in June, I think it's June, there's going to be a free mulch giveaway. Every year, City of Memphis gives away mulch, so that will be an opportunity for you to get free mulch to put around your landscape. And as you shared, landscape really, and the appearance of your lawn adds so much value to your home. Get some of these kids out here and cut the grass, learn how to cut the grass and things like that to add value to your home. I remember my grandmother she used to tell me they used to have to sweep the dirt at their homes. They just took pride in their homes and where they lived, and you don't throw trash on the ground, and go through and do cleanups or beautification opportunities, for your neighborhood. It'll get, like you said, you get exercise, and it's sunny outside, and you'll really feel good about where you live when you take time and invest in it. So I appreciate that, and we'll come back. Hopefully we'll have some questions for you after that, and we'll have those slides available too online on tomorrow. So next we're going to ask Miss Dorcas Griffin if she would share with us. She's going to come and kind of share some information with us about what services are available to communities and to residents while they're sheltering at home. What opportunities are available, not just now, but through your office ongoing.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you all can hear me. I'm working with the headphones tonight and Hopefully it's working. Yeah, I'm good. Dorcas Young Griffin, so thankful to be invited tonight. Just a moment of personal privilege. I would like to say thank you to Councilwoman Rhonda Logan. We go back, way back, even probably before we knew each other, because she's in the either infamous club or famous club of preachers' kids in Memphis. And so I'm thankful that you invited me, and I am just so proud of you and all the work that you're doing for District 1. I mentioned being a preacher's kid because it is funny how sometimes your parents have ideas of what you're going to do, and people have ideas of what you're going to do. And a lot of times people assume that ministers' kids are going into ministry. And you are either one that really wants to do it or you really don't. And I am one of those that's like, no, sir. He would have to call my name super loud for that to happen. But I found that the joke is on me because going to school to do public administration, hey, I work in a nonprofit, I work for government because I like that. And here I am in the middle of the ministry part of government work. The Division of Community Services is all about meeting the needs of people that are here in our community. We are a division of county government that's probably funded about $45 million. 80% of that are federal and state and local grants, but we administer programs to serve our seniors, our folks living with disabilities, our folks that are experiencing homelessness, victims of crime, and those folks who are justice involved, and just our families and individuals that are living in poverty. We know, we don't have to go through the data. We know that too many of our families here in this community are living at or below the federal poverty level. That means that basic essentials, many times people are having difficulty just to eat, just to have a home that is stable, just to have adequate transportation to get to a job that still may not pay a living wage. And so many of the consequences of poverty are the very programs and services that we deliver each and every day. There are 7 departments within the Division of Community Services. Some of them you may be very familiar with. The Community Services Agency is our branch of government that deals with emergency assistance needs for our citizens. We are many times referred to as the light bill people. We pay utilities for folks. We help with rent and mortgage. We help with medication. And we help folks just navigate moving from a place of economic instability to a place that they want to get to, which is being stable. We also administer the Aging Commission of the Mid-South. And so we serve over 4,000 seniors a year. A lot of the services that we deliver are through some of our major nonprofits here. So MIFA's Meals on Wheels. We help to fund that work. Some of the work done at places like Meritan, some of the work that are done at our local senior centers, that work is being funded through the Aging Commission. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize when we say the Aging Commission, the technical name is the Aging and Disabilities Commission of the Mid-South. So we are not only charged to help our seniors, but we are also charged to help individuals over the age of 18 who are living with disabilities with services that they may need, in-home health care, access to transportation, helping them to identify medical homes, connecting them with 10 care benefits. All of those things are happening through the Aging Commission. Another department is our Crime Victims and Rape Crisis Center. Every victim of crime in Shelby County is able to go to the Crime Victim Center and receive free counseling, free supports, free navigation of accessing victims' compensation funds, anything that they need to support them during the time that they have been a victim of crime. In addition to the Crime Victim Center, a part of that agency is our Rape Crisis Center. We are a freestanding rape crisis center here in this community. And so when someone is a victim of sexual assault, we have nurses and a medical team on staff 24 hours a day, where a person can come and receive a forensic exam. They're treated, and that information is also used to try to identify who the perpetrator is. And so we're doing that work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Another department that we have is our Office of Justice Initiatives, and it encompasses a lot of work that we are doing in the criminal justice system. The biggest part of that work is pretrial services. And so where it is in line with public safety, where it is a low level offense, we want to keep people out of jail. We know that things happen and people come, they come, they're on the other side of the law in some cases, but we recognize that everyone is not a violent offender that belongs in jail. And so where we can make recommendations to our judges and judicial commissioners to deal with cases outside of incarceration, we try to do that. We also run our county probation program for those folks that can't afford to be on a private probation company's rolls. We do that work for them. In our Office of Justice Initiatives, we also run our behavioral health unit, which includes our mental health court. We help to pay for the crisis stabilization work that is done at Alliance Healthcare. So law enforcement, instead of taking someone who may be having a mental crisis to jail, there is a way to take those folks to get treatment, to get the help that they need versus incarceration. We also run our Veterans Affairs Office. We know that we have about 60,000 veterans that are living in our community. We help to connect those veterans with their deserved and earned benefits. It is not only helpful for them, but it's also a stimulus to our local economy. When veterans get their benefits, they are able to invest back into the community, purchasing their food, purchasing paying their rent and mortgage. All of those things matter. And so we want to make sure that we are able to help support our veterans, and it has the added benefit of helping this community. I feel like I'm forgetting something because it's so much that happens. Hold on one second, y'all. No, I'm not forgetting anything. We do a lot. There is a lot of work that is done. I mentioned how large the budget is, and just all the work that we're doing in general, just every day. And so now we're in the midst of COVID, and the work has not stopped. In fact, it has intensified, because now there are even more people that need many of the services that I mentioned before. We have been fortunate that our local government, our county government, and our city governments have been responding to the needs of the people. And so one of the things that we were recently able to do is to set up an emergency fund to help those folks that don't traditionally qualify for some of our programs, but may have lost jobs and need help with rent and mortgage, assistance with their utilities, need access to food. We have been able to start a program to try to help those folks. I will say, this tells you the need. We opened the application on Monday at 8 a.m. We had to shut it down Tuesday at 4:30 because we had 5,000 applications. And you'll note I said, I don't know if I mentioned, we got an initial seed of $500,000 to do this. And 5,000 people, $500,000, you know, that doesn't go very far. And so we've put it on pause for now until we can process the applications that we have. We do anticipate and are looking at ways that we can make additional investments in meeting the needs of people that need our help. There is lots of funding that's coming in different ways in this community. You've heard about the CARES Act funds. We're all looking at how we can utilize that to support our residents, and not only our residents, but our nonprofits that are doing some of the work to meet the need. All of that is being explored, and I think that you'll find in the next few weeks, just all over, we will be rolling out ways to try to support our families, our nonprofits, and even our local businesses so that we can get on the road to recovery.
Absolutely. You all. So as you see, y'all have a lot that's available to citizens all the time, and particularly during this time as well. So if you need resources in the community, if you know your neighbors need resources, reach out to CSA, reach out to the Shelby County government. The city, we have programs in the city, and I wanted everyone to see that there are programs as well in the county, and you are there for communities. The community service agency, and we're excited that there is help for people. So we'll bear with you and let you regroup and get back started issuing out funds to help.
Well, let me clarify. All those programs that I mentioned that we do all the time, those are still going on.
Oh,
What
okay.
we put a pause on was this emergency fund that we created for COVID-related expenses. Many
Okay.
people will qualify for both. And so we're still running those other programs. We just had an additional amount of money to invest in helping folks. So if you got needs, go to our website right now, shelbycountytn.gov, to the Division of Community Services. Look at the programs, their applications there, figure out what you need, and we are open and serving right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much for that. And stay on board because there are questions that are coming. There are questions that are coming through for you all. And once we get through all of the presentations, we'll come back with those questions. So our listeners and those that are out there, hang on. We're going to get to your questions. I want to make sure everybody, because they may answer your questions too. But thank you, Miss Young. I'm sorry, Miss Griffin. And next, we're going to ask Miss Rachel Jones to come and share with us with the Cool Nerds. There are many people that are at home homeschooling. We're at home and we're getting homeschooled. Actually, what it amounts to be. And Miss Griffin can attest that. Dorcas can attest to that. We both are mature parents homeschooling. So we need you. We need your help. And how can you help us? There's so many people that I've been talking to, constituents, and I've been calling constituents in my district since this happened, just checking on people, phone call by phone call. And there are a number of people that are at home homeschooling, trying to work and do different things. So I said that'll be a good panelist to have too, to give us a little bit of help. You've been doing this for a long time, so I'm going to ask you to share with us.
So first of all, thank you, Ms. Logan, for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. I am going to do the best that I can to help you all. I'll tell you a little bit about the Cool Nerds. I started this program because I was working as a public school teacher, and of course I had children of my own, and there were just some things that I didn't think that they were learning. And so I just decided that I would, kind of come out of that field and go into homeschooling my own kids. And it transitioned into the Cool Nerds, which is where we help tutor other homeschooling students. And so we work with a lot of families on a lot of different levels. So I want to talk, I guess, a little bit about try to help as much as I can with every different age groups of children. Because mine, when all this happened, let me tell y'all what I did. When everybody else was panicking and running around, I looked at my 16-year-old daughter and said, well, it's over. And I hit a couple of little buttons and she graduated. So she had already been enrolled in Southwest. She has a job at the campus already. So she's free to go for the next couple of years. So she'll be all right. But long before that, I had already, even when I was in the public school, I was already teaching my children at home. And so I want to just kind of encourage parents, use this time to encourage parents to begin to do that now. Where everybody's doing it now, and they kind of have to. So We do a lot with our program when the normal school year is going on. We're very hands-on with our students. We do a lot of traveling. One year we actually traveled, we took an entire school week and traveled all the way across Tennessee, visiting different parks and running across waterfalls and art museums and colleges and that kind of thing. And that entire week was their learning experience. And so I want to encourage you that parents, especially, that a lot of what you're doing already is you're teaching your kids, period, just by living life with them. So a lot of times I run across parents that think they aren't doing enough. And I'm not sure what standards they're comparing themselves to, but I don't want to get too deep into this, but a lot of kids were already struggling in public school. So from bullying to not being able to read, to just having issues, this time actually provides us an opportunity to truly get to know ourselves, truly get to know our children, and kind of fill those gaps. And some of them read very well, but they don't have a lot of self-confidence. And so right now is the time that I think parents should be using to fill in those gaps and kind of give their children exactly what it is that their own individual children needs, and who knows that better than the parents. So as far as I'll talk a little bit about our program, and then I'll get into the advice part. Our program is Christ-centered and African-centered for a couple of different reasons. A lot of times our kids are going to church and they still don't know very much about what we say we believe is a religion. A lot of us do. And even if it's not Christianity, we like to take our education and take that opportunity to use it to educate our kids on what we're saying that we believe. Especially the African history piece. A lot of our students, our children in our communities don't always have a lot of times their history starts with slavery in their heads. Our history starts with slavery, and that's just not true. And so if you are dealing with a child and they're saying, well, I hate math, and then you start teaching them that our ancestors created the first systems of math, they begin to look at things a lot differently. And it does add a really strong identity piece, as well as it motivates them to want to learn some of the stuff that they try, that they shy away from. And so I do have a degree in African and African American studies, but you don't have to have, I don't have a degree in math, I don't have a degree in biology, and I'm still able to teach those things, because part of homeschooling is we're learning as we're going along, because even with my degrees, I do not know everything, and it's okay to not know. And that's when you take the opportunity with your children and say, hey, I don't know, but let's figure this out together. That also builds family time, it builds trust. And all those things have to be in place in order for you to be able, it has to be in place for a classroom teacher to be able to effectively teach the students. And so it surely has to be in place in your homes. And so we like to look at homeschooling as an opportunity to build healthy relationships with your children. So I kind of want to start here with parents. I think that parents should start with themselves. I don't think we always realize, especially women, but in general, our attitudes impact everything that's going on in the household. And we don't always, we're not always mindful of that. But if we start with ourselves, it's crazy. We'll be teaching kids if we just go, you know what? Hey, y'all, hey, this week is going to be a little rough for me. And we're honest about where we are, and we tell that to our children, and we involve them in that process instead of them being impacted by our negative attitudes, because this whole COVID situation is very stressful. And if we're carrying that in our houses, guess who's picking up on all of that? Our kids. So long before you teach them math, science, or anything, you're teaching them through your behavior. So I think it's important that before we even start thinking about homeschooling, we start thinking about who we are. How have I been talking to myself inside of my head? How does that translate through my actions? What are my kids picking up on? Am I arguing with my husband every night and the kids can hear that in the other room? Am I on the phone gossiping? Am I on the phone complaining? They hear all of that stuff. So if you just kind of do some real, self-checking, I guess some mental care on yourself, the kids are going to pick up on that instantly. So before you start, again, teaching subjects, if you start working on yourself, they'll pick that stuff up. That's what I call working smart and not hard. So when you start dealing with yourself, because how can you teach them to deal with themselves if you're not doing that? So that's first and foremost. I run across so many parents. I run across more children than anything else who always tell parents, if I'm dealing with your child, I know all your business, because everything that they bring into my environment, be it a public school classroom or even when they're coming to my home for tutoring, they bring all that with them. They bring the moodiness, they bring the love, If there's drugs in the house, they bringing the drugs, they bringing the guns, they gonna bring the cussing, they gonna bring everything that they have in their home, they're bringing it with them. And so that does start with us, whether we're forced to homeschool or not. So, one, I think parents ought to be dealing with themselves. I wrote a book called Responsible Parenting and Homeschooling because I am a huge advocate for homeschooling, but I think that it takes responsible parents to properly homeschool. And so that's that piece. But I also want to say have some grace with yourself. Before you even start dealing with your kid, a lot of us are working from home. And I keep hearing y'all say y'all have smaller children. So I don't know if you have older kids who can help out, but if you don't, I've been talking to parents who are kind of struggling because they're like, I don't want my kid online all day long or sitting in front of a computer or TV all day long, but I have to work. So how do I manage that? Have some grace with yourself. You might have to stick them in front of a TV so they can watch a 2-hour movie. But my advice for that is get an old school TV, get a VCR so you can control what they're watching, right? So if you get a VCR and you stick in, an old episode of Sesame Street, they are learning. They are sitting in front of a TV, but now you're doing what's called smart programming. Or if they're just watching Disney movies or whatever it is that you're choosing. VeggieTales was what I did for my children when they were younger, and so they were learning little silly little stories. They were sitting in front of a TV, but I had to work, so I used it to my advantage, and so they weren't watching, things that weren't beneficial to their minds, to their young minds. And then we would also discuss what they watched, right? So use that time to get you a break or to do the work that you have to do, but always go back in there and check on them, make sure they all right, But if you have older children, use that to your advantage too. Have the older children helping you. That's part of responsibility, it's part of maturing. And it's just part of what we have to do as a family right now. We have to work together as a team. So for the younger children, that would be my suggestion. I would also suggest, as far as teaching is concerned, always try to make teaching feel like a game. Make it feel fun. When my children were smaller, I would have part of how I taught them how to read. I would just label regular household items with index cards. And I know you can just go get you $1 pack of index cards and just label. If they're struggling with spelling, label the stuff all around the house, and they'll begin to pick that stuff up even without you standing there giving them a spelling test, because their eyes, their mind, their subconscious is working. So again, we're talking about working smart and not hard, because the real goal here, I think, with homeschooling, especially in this kind of time, is to make it as the least pressure, take the road of the least resistance. Kids are happy. When all this happened, I said, ain't nobody mad at the kids homeschooling but the parents. So if you keep them happy, if y'all work on keeping everybody happy, it'll lower the stress in the household. If you have middle and older students, children, teach them the stuff that we always say, oh, they ain't teaching them cursive no more. Then teach them cursive. Teach them cursive. Teach them multiplication. Teach them how to tell time on an analog clock. Please, for God's sake, break out a dictionary and a thesaurus and teach your children how to use those tools. And so, okay, here's a simple activity. Take the word conflict, for instance. If you give them that word and they don't know what it means, then you take them to a dictionary. A lot of times they look in a dictionary, they don't always know what the definition is, right? They don't even know what that definition means. But if you take them to a thesaurus, you can get them to give you 2 synonyms and 2 antonyms, right? Make sure they know what synonyms mean. Words that mean and they usually go same. So talk that part through. But if you gave them 2 synonyms and 2 antonyms, they've just learned 5 words very simply, very easily, right? And if y'all are sitting there talking about it, it may take you 2 minutes to do that, 5 minutes at the most, but they've learned 5 new vocabulary words very, very easily. And if they ever run across those words again, they'll remember they sat there with mama or daddy and we worked this out. But if you continue to do that, they say it takes 21 days to create a new habit. I always say it takes 42. You got to break the old habits first and establish a new habit. So if you continue that process, is it going to get on your nerve? Yes. Let me tell you, I'm not promising you that this is going to be easy, but if you do that work, just that little simple thing, every day for 42 days, they'll be begging you to read. They'll be begging you to read. I've seen this work over and over again. And so again, I'm talking about working smart and not hard. So the first step is to work on yourself so y'all can build a little bit of trust. Get to know your children too. I've been seeing people say, work on these schedules, keep them on a schedule like they would do at school. Well, it's not school, it's your home. And if you try to do school at home, that is going to be stressful. What works for your family? Do you have teenagers that need to sleep until 11 o'clock? Do you have little small children who wake up at the crack of dawn ready to go? You have to do what works for your family. And so I like to say, I was a teacher. I was a teacher for a long time. I'm still a teacher. But in the public system, they wanted us to have lesson plans. I don't know one teacher in my whole existence of teaching who ever actually accomplished all of those plans, because there are so many factors that change all throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the policies that are coming down the pipeline. So I like to tell people, work more with a to-do list than a schedule. That way you can maintain your flexibility and you're not stressed out because you wrote you were going to do this at 3 o'clock and 3 o'clock is here and you're not able to get it done. Okay, that's fine. That's life. This life changes all of the time. For some people, they work really, really well with schedules, but if you work well with a tight schedule and your children don't, you still have to adjust yourself. You know, they always say if the student is not learning, then the teacher needs to adjust, you know, what they're doing. You need to adjust yourself, especially if you have multiple children. And that's okay. That is okay to adjust yourself over and over again, but find a rhythm that works for your individual families. What if the kids wake up with a stanky attitude? Today might not even be the day to try. Hey, we're gonna try something. We're gonna make ice cream today, you know. But what kind of activities can you think about doing that is still you spending time with your children? It might not necessarily look like, I guess in our minds, you know, I wrote a book, like I said, and I do talk about the difference between school and education. They are very different things. All of us, even with all of our degrees, a lot of times we don't exactly learn what we're supposed to learn until we start doing it. So life is learning. And if you take those opportunities to teach your children, I think that will help ease the stress of feeling like we got to do what's going on in school, because that's not what this should look like. It should look like healed people heal people. There's a saying, hurt people hurt people, healed people heal people. So we should definitely be using this time to build healthy relationships with our children.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It was a couple other things I kind of want to throw in there, but I want to give you this list of what I think are basics. And I run into a lot of young people that struggle in these areas. Reading globes and maps, that's something you could easily do, very cheaply, very easily with your children. And if you have to learn alongside them, that's even better. That's even better. They'll love that, because you're showing them, I don't know everything, you know, I don't know everything, and that's okay. Handwriting, which actually helps their brains connect. Basic math, which is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and dividing. But if they can get those basics, they can get the rest of that other stuff. So if you have even a high school student who's taking algebra, but they're struggling, I promise you, if you go back and just help them master those basics, the rest of the stuff will easily fall in place. Conflict management is education, right? Definitely critical thinking, using puzzles and Legos. There's studies that show that helping children, allowing children to work with and build things with Legos is more beneficial than them taking trigonometry. So puzzles, old school, you know, I like to, that we can use technology for some things, but with our kids, I think we should train them to turn that stuff off. But don't just go, why turn it off? You always want to. You have to actually have something for them to do, and you might want to do it with them. So even if they're singing karaoke, they're still reading the words on the screen. So again, you always want to make education look like it's some kind of game. So when it comes down to it, and you have to teach them something that actually is not a game, they'll be more willing to do that with you, because you have been so willing to spend real and genuine time with them. I'm going to give you one other little activity that we do in our household, and we do this on a regular basis. You can even start when children are as young as 5 years old. Ask them to imagine what they want their life to look like in 10 years. And then you do the same thing. And y'all write it down. Just write your name in the middle, and they can just write down 6 to 8 things that characterize what they want their life to look like in 10 years. And then talk to them. Hey, you're 5, you'll be 15 in 10 years. What do you think? And you'll be so surprised what these young people come up with. You'll be surprised what you come up with if you just imagine what you want your life to look like in 10 years. And so we put that on a piece of paper, right? And so when I'm talking about praying for your kids and getting to know your kids, or how you should maybe try to teach your kids, that will actually give you a little glimpse into who they are saying that they want to be, not who you're saying they want, who they are saying. And then you'll know how to kind of sort of guide and maneuver them a little bit better, according to their needs and wants and desires. And then have them continue to revisit it. I make my kids revisit that. My kids are, the youngest is 14, but I said, my husband, we all have one, and that's how I pray for us. But I also go, let's revisit this. Is this still what you want your life to look like? And if they look at it and go, okay, then I know we're on the right track. Everything that I introduce you to, all of our opportunities, everything that I pray for you, and try to bring into your world or put in your path is going to be according to what you said you wanted. And that just kind of helps guide how we're going to educate each individual a little bit better.
Awesome. That's an awesome activity. I haven't thought about that. And while we're home, those types of things one-on-one really, really gets to the heart of who your children are and what you put in them, and help them to pull that out, and, gives you a gauge and a barometer as to where they are. So those are some awesome tips. And we're going to put those down in the question box. So if you could type those in down there so our viewers and listeners can have them. And we are recording, so this will be uploaded, and all of these great tips for people that are at home right now, bringing it home right now, turning off all of these breaking news, and using this time to improve our children, our relationships in our homes with our children. And I mean, it was so key when you first opened up with start with yourself. Don't take anything else. That is something we can take as parents. So thank you so much for that expertise. And I told y'all she's a wealth of knowledge, and would have been able to keep going. So you may want to reach out to Rachel yourself directly. Thank you so much. And we're going to slide over to Miss Mia Madison while we're homeschooling. And one of those things they can do is take them outside and get their hands dirty with some gardening. So that's a great segue to Miss Mia. Well, you have the floor. I'm going to share with us a few minutes, some of your golden nuggets on how we can utilize your tools while we're home. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Councilwoman Logan, for allowing me to join this esteemed panel. I'm in awe with many of the co-panelists that I'm here with today. And so I just want to thank you for the opportunity. And as you say, while people are at home, they can go outside and play in the dirt. Absolutely, we want people to do that. But not only can they go outside to play in dirt, they can play in dirt actually indoors as well. Many people are, when they think about agriculture from a growing perspective, they tend to not think of container gardening and ways in which you can grow food indoors. So why don't I start with Memphis Tilth and what that is, and share that with everyone, because a lot of people are not familiar with who we are. And so Memphis Tilth is an organization that cultivates collective action for an economically sustainable, socially equitable, environmentally sound local food system. We do that through 3 programs: Grow Local, Cook Together, and Farm Direct. And I'll share what those 3 programs cover, but to give you a little history of how the organization came about, it was 5 different organizations that came together to stop competing for funding against one another. So Grow Memphis, the Center for Food and Faith, Bring It Food Hub, Urban Farms, and the Food Advocacy Council all joined together under one umbrella called Memphis Tilth. It was fashioned after the Seattle Tilth or Oregon Tilth on the West Coast, where they were really creating a local food economy, bringing farm to table, bringing garden to table, and marrying nutrition with that with that information.
I'll share what Tilth is. Tilth TILTH before
Yeah,
you go?
sure.
Can you just tell what that
So
means?
tilth, TILTH means good soil, and it's an old English word, and I didn't come up with it or the mission. I joined the organization July of 2019, but that was after I had started 2 community gardens, one both in North Memphis, because I've always been a North Memphis advocate. I'm from Bearwater area, 7th Street. And I also launched a farmer's market last year at Chelsea Avenue in Springdale. I'm also your neighbor, Rhonda. I'm a constituent of District 1, and Raleigh is a great community. Thank you, Mr. Burgess, for sharing that information that we all really wanted to know about Raleigh. But tilth meaning soil. One of the things that I like to share about soil and why it's important for our community is, a growing number of concerned citizens and environmental activists know that Memphis Tilth works to expand urban farming, right? And how we bring the farm direct. But what a lot of people may not know is that we work also on soil contamination and in communities, and we work around soil and remediation. What that looks like is we look to agricultural techniques to clean soil. And so where we may have lead, where we may have petroleum, where we may have remnants of construction, we look for agricultural products like mycorrhizal or hemp to utilize in soil to do phytoremediation, which means to bring those toxins into the plant body and to then discard of it, or even into a fruiting body like mushrooms and then discard of it because waste is then collected into that soil. But we're not here to talk about soil remediation. We're really here to share more resources and ways that people in their homes can begin to grow food, because food is a scarcity in many of our communities. What we found is that most of our communities, if for those that are even walkable, the closest grocery store is greater than 2.5 miles, sometimes further. And many times we think about that in urban communities, around North Memphis and South Memphis, and even in Midtown and downtown when we think about the closest grocery store. But what we don't think about is in suburban communities like Raleigh, and in Cordova, and in Fraser, especially on the most northern sides of Fraser. It's hard for those without transportation or who have transportation challenges to get to adequate food sources. And when we get to some of those food sources, we don't find fresh, healthy foods. And so one of the things that I want to encourage is that everyone begin to, now that we have time, to look within your diet. A lot of people are not eating whole foods. Whole foods, especially green leafy vegetables during this particular time, they are superfoods and foods that you should be using to keep your bodies healthy. You should be consuming those in large amounts. Those superfoods will help ward off and lower viral load. So one of the things that you can do is plant kale, and you can grow that right indoors. Actually, the reason that I kept turning my screen on pause is because I'm eating this kale that's right behind me that's growing in my office. And so not only do we grow kale in the office, we have some lavender, which is also good to use for sinus issues, to add to humidifiers. And so I'm not trying to give anyone medical advice because I am not a doctor, but I will say that when you think about whole foods and what we bring into the body, behooves us to think about ways in which we grow and connect with the land through our food. And so Memphis Tilth, we advocate for growing local. Growing local for us looks like community gardens. We manage the St. Paul Garden, the St. James Garden, and the St. Jude Garden. At St. Jude, we have 80 raised beds, about 80 raised beds. We also have an orchard there, bees, where we harvest honey and make that available. We also have a hoop house there. And we do butterfly and hummingbird stations all around the campus to provide patients, families, and staff beautiful scenery in which they can look upon and convene with nature in such a sometimes downtrodden environment. And that's what we do at St. Jude. We do the St. Jude Farmers Market on that campus as well, but I'll share a little bit more about that as I get to our Farm Direct program. At our St. Paul Garden, we right now have about 12 raised beds. We have about 10 in-ground rows, and we just put our Giving Grove nursery there, where we have right now about 85 fruit trees, fruit, nut, and berry bushes, where we'll be connecting with communities to marry that Grow Local program and our Giving Grove program to create sustainable edible food forests in communities. When we think about how when people are looking at communities to move there, right, to find a place to live, and one of the things that we should be looking for is how close we are to accessing food, and to have food growing right in the community that is also aesthetically pleasing would not only increase food access, but increase I'm trying to say quality of life, but also residential. What am I trying to say? The housing price is what I'm trying to say. And so at Memphis Tilth, what we do is lock arms with community members who are growing and help them figure out how to build the capacity, how to use the resources that they have available to them. How do we turn permaculture, which is the reuse of things already in our environment, how do we turn that into sustainable things that we can utilize for years to come? That edible food forest in community is going to last at least 3 generations. So that looks like about 22,000 pounds on annual of fresh fruit and vegetables going to communities. All we need to do is implement them. I can talk more about our nutrition, but I'll breeze beyond that to talk really more about Bring It Food Hub and why and how communities can be growing food and bring to market. Because Bring It Food Hub is a market where we provide a fresh produce subscription to right now about 300 community members all across Memphis. And so we provide about 7 to 10 items in a bag from $25 to a classic bag is $25, a deluxe bag is $40. And our members also pay it forward. So with those pay it forward donations, we purchase extra food that we passed out in the 38126 and the 38108 communities. We harvest food from St. Jude right now. That food is not going into their cafe on campus. We take that food and we put it in what we call food recovery to pay that food forward to communities who don't have access to a grocery store in their neighborhood, and to many seniors who can't get to fresh, healthy foods. We bag about anywhere between 25 to 30 bags on a Saturday, and we hit the neighborhoods until they're all gone. And it makes for a great camaraderie tool to talk about the food that's in the bag, to talk about ways in which they can help us in the garden. we have gardens in all of the communities that we serve. Like I said, that's 38126 and 38108. We do partner with other community gardens. We provide seeds. We have a seed library at the Benjamin Hooks Library on the 3rd floor. We've harvested about, we probably put over 1,500 packs of seeds at the library this past February, and then it closed. And so right now we're doing seeds that we have available in our office curbside, and you can pick those up at 575 Suzette Street, Building C. And so we offer those seeds between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Anyone can come by and get them. We give out a 5.
Would you repeat that? I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah,
Repeat
sure.
that, the address and the time.
So we are located at 575 Suzette, Suzettee Street, Building C. We're at Crump and Suzette. So if you're familiar with MIFA, we're about 2 blocks west and 2 blocks south of MIFA, just off of Crump. And so, so the Bring It Food Hub really is that market opportunity for community members who are thinking about getting into urban farming and into growing for their communities. We're always right now looking for food to pass on to community members. We create a local food economy. We have a bread maker. We use Farm and Fig. We have farms, Rose Creek, the Produce Tribe, Lockhart's Produce. We buy from Black farmers, and we want to buy from more Black farmers. We also buy from Winchester Farms. We're always looking for pickled and canning. And if you don't know how to make those things, we have a commercial community kitchen where we teach those things as well. So we just invite our community to get involved with us, reach out to us. If you have any questions about growing, if you have any questions about nutrition, if you have any questions about how to bring items to market, we'd love to hear and talk with you about what that looks like moving forward.
That's awesome. Would you be willing to do maybe a Zoom with a community or a neighborhood if they want to do a neighborhood garden, or if the residents want to put a garden in the back of their home? As we see now, it's so important to get back to that, having a little patch in your own yard, and you can do that now. So I really encourage those neighborhood leaders to reach out, and maybe you can do a platform like this, because we need to get back to having a patch in our yard, in our backyard, or even in a tire. There's so many tires laying around. They can get those tires and repurpose them for
I
that.
don't necessarily advocate for that because
Okay, well, scratch the tire then. Scratch the tire.
no,
Then we won't do
that
that.
doesn't mean that you can't use recycled or materials found in our community. There's a
Okay,
material that you would have to put between the tire and the soil, so it
Oh
doesn't.
yeah, because of all that. I get it. I get that. I've seen so many of them have flowers in the yard. Usually they paint the tires. You can do flowers, but not produce. Is that correct?
Well, I would say to maintain Tennessee produce safety, we should talk more intentionally about what a grower is looking to do, especially if they want to bring it to market. We're not trying to tell people what to do for their own food source or how to grow at for their own personal consumption. But if they're talking about bringing it to market, that's a different story. But get some seeds, get some soil. Some people don't think that Dollar Tree soil is good, but with nurture, love, water, and sunlight, you can grow in that soil. So come by, get a pack of seeds. I still got some collards. I think I got some peppers. We have a bunch of okra, and then we also have flowers. So I just want to be able to share that with communities. And just one last thing around our Giving Folk Orchard program. We will begin our orchard stewardship training, where we'll be teaching communities how to prune, harvest, plant these fruit trees, how to care for them, how to water them, how to maintain pest management, what that looks like. And that's a 3-year commitment to communities. We are also working with Community Lift on next week, and we haven't narrowed down a date and time. But next week, Nefertiti Oren and I will do a grant announcement around their Memphis Empowerment Fund. And so we're asking that communities and garden leaders who are interested in putting in community gardens in their neighborhoods look to this grant opportunity, because they'll be making awards in the amount of $2,500. And that's plenty of money to input a edible food forest. And we can work with those communities to get that accomplished.
That is awesome. We'll be looking for that, and neighborhoods, look out for that as well. And thank you for sharing all of that wonderful information. And I'm sure neighborhoods will be getting with you concerning that. I have a couple of questions. Questions have been coming in. The first 2 or 3 are for Mr. Burgess. And let me pull those up. Number 1 is, are minority contractors involved in the property growth development plans with your office? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can now.
Councilwoman, can you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
Okay. Are minority contractors involved in the property growth, the development plans with your office?
Well, some of the on a task force, the task force really is not entailed to, if we do start new development, on who we be choosing. So I have nothing to do with that. Of course, it has to go through the contractor piece, or but as of now, it's kind of premature. However, I am focusing that work over with Shep Wilborn, who's with the minority program with Shelby County. So he is on my task force. So we will be working that with him, and we're going to work closely with him to make sure that that piece is included when it comes to minority business. So Shep Wilborn is working on our task force with that piece.
Okay, great. And so if someone was interested, what would you suggest that they do?
Okay, well, what they can do, they can reach out to me. They can reach out to me by email. Melvin Burgess, assessor. You can go to my website, and matter of fact, we got a chat piece also on my website. So if that person can reach out to me that way, and because it's being answered, I got somebody on 2424 and give me that information, and we can move forward with that.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go to. There's one more question for you. I'm gonna go to Ms. Fain. It says, things were mentioned about increasing curb appeal to add value. Would this be the same for the backyards as well? I know most people take pride in the front than they do the back.
It would be mostly for the front yard, because that's the part of the property that is most visible, but it can also increase value anywhere on the property depending on what's done.
Okay. Next, Mr. Burgess, it says, when the value goes up, does that mean higher taxes for the homeowners?
Councilwoman, I couldn't hear it. Say it again.
Okay, it says, when the value goes up, does that mean higher taxes for the homeowner?
Not necessarily, because again, when a real appraisal comes around, everybody thinks the real appraisal means that we're going to go up on your property taxes, or your assessment. The real appraisal is no more than we're trying to get it right, because we know sometimes when you go online or when you look at your property or you look at your value, sometimes we may have an extra bathroom, extra bedroom. So this is the time to get it right. And when we do the real appraisal, of course, values are going to go up depending on what neighborhood you live in. So values are going to go up, and that but it doesn't necessarily mean that your tax is going to go up. So if you have any questions, please go to my website and you can ask us questions because we've been very aggressive with the questions that we're going to be taking in when it comes to the reappraisal, which is done every 4 years, and the last time it was done is 2017. So I want people, please, to be sure you contact on my website, my chat function, because what I want you to do once we get up and running again, I want you to come to our office to where you can get it appealed. We got, a board of equalization where you can get that appealed. You can get it right. Our people need to know if your assessment is not right or you disagree. You don't have to abide by it. Come and get it reappraised, or you can come and get it appealed. And you can go to assessormelvinburgess.com. That's my website.
Okay. Okay, great. Your team member shared some great information about some new developments that are happening in Raleigh. They also clarified that the parcel count of 3,994 included all of the parcels in the outline map of District 1. So that was the entire district of Cordova, Raleigh, and a part of Fraser. So we're gonna, these questions and all of this information will be in the chat as well after this is over with. And I do want to thank all of you for sharing this time with us. We gave out a lot of information that people can use as we're sheltering at home, and we, take this information to reset. Don't let it overwhelm you, the things that are going on in our community, in our nation, in our city, but take this time to reset. And we've given some great, there's a pastor in my district that is addressing that whole reset component, and I'll have him on soon. But it is a wonderful opportunity, even though it's in the midst of some trying times. And you all are doing some awesome things and sharing and have shared great information. Each one of you have shared information that could actually save a life. It's just that important in the time in which we live, from eradicating food deserts with our own food being grown, to the emergency services from Ms. Griffin, to how we can improve the homes in which we live and save that value and that wealth. We want to have home ownership, but we don't want it to be a burden. We don't want it to be a liability. Let me say it like that. When you purchase a home and then you lose $10,000 on the value of it, when you could have done a few things to improve your home and your neighborhood to add that value. And most definitely, we want to mind our assets, our personal assets, such as our children, not just our home, but our children. And we've had some wonderful tips tonight, and we'll share some things on our Facebook page that Ms. Jones can share with us to give to you all. And we really appreciate you all. Tune in next week. We're here every Thursday at 6 p.m. with different guests, talking about different aspects of our community, having community conversations on how we can maintain ourselves through this time and come out on the other side more successful and more equipped. And God bless you all for being here and taking this time. It's a long time, but it was well worth it. Mr. Burgess, you want to say something? Close us out.
Council, I want to say one thing. I want to end with this. It was very, when I became the assessor and all the information I have out there, it was very disheartening to see how the property values are going down in the Black community. And I hear, we talk about loans, but guess what? People who have low values on their homes, why try to improve your home when you can't get where there's no equity in it because of your values, right? Orange Mound took a 28% hit in values over the last 10 years. And I always say in my meetings for everyone that's listening is this: Orange Mound, there's a wall built around Orange Mound. East of Orange Mound is University of Memphis. West of Orange Mound is Cooper Young. North of Orange Mound is Chickasaw God. There's something wrong with that picture. And until we be a part and collaborate with University of Memphis and some of our neighborhoods will not make it. And Henry Turley told me this. He told me, all of us who drive through our neighborhoods, of course, we don't live there anymore, the blight, you're going to pay for it on my end in your assessments. You're going to pay for it. That property that's blighted, that property where there is no that property where, you know, there's no value, this board is tore down, somebody got to pay for it. So it makes sense to put them back on the road and get them back going. And that's what I'm trying to do in Orange Mountain, to take to Raleigh, to take to Fraser, pretty much just a infrastructure or plan. This is a heavy lift. I never knew it was so much involved when it came to banks, when it came to just all sorts of mechanisms that are being deprived of our community because of the blight and because of the community. I mean, look at the schools. You know, I'm very impressed, or I'm very proud to say I'm working with George Ray with 901, to where University of Memphis is talking about partnering with Dunbar, you know, to where we can get Dunbar back on the map, because we know good schools attract these young folks and attract people. But that's what we got to do for all of us who are elected in our Councilwoman Logan, that are elected, you know, that represent the inner city where we know it's failing. I think we can work together, and I'm trying to get a plan. We can make this thing happen, and I'm very excited. I am going to work very hard, you know, for our inner city to try to bring it back to where it used to be.
And that's one of the reasons why I want to have you here, so we can, at the community level, know what our hand could be in improving our communities as well, because we all have a part to play, because it's a heavy lift. It's going to take everybody from corporate to the neighborhood to turn these things around. So we appreciate that. And we're going to be looking for you. We may bring you on a separate time, just yourself, to talk about some things that you see that need to turn around, and how we can help to do that as elected officials, as community leaders, as pastors and faith-based, everybody.
And Councilwoman, one more other thing. If you want to be a part of the task force, please,
Definitely.
you can email me at assessormelvinburgess.com, and I will get you invited. We make sure we get you on the webinar or get you on Zoom. Please, if you're interested in any of the neighborhoods, want to be a part of the conversation on our task force meeting in Orange Mountain, please contact us, and somebody will get right back with you by the name of Sean Franklin. Please do.
Okay, perfect. I definitely will do that, and I want to do that so we can bring the information back to the community. Someone just asked, how are they going to get their COVID relief check, Ms. Griffin? Is it going to be mailed to them?
So this is Dorcas. Hi. So there are a lot of COVID relief funds. So I'm assuming that the person is talking about the stimulus checks, like they have gone into people's accounts.
It says, how will the grant funds for COVID relief be given to the applicant?
Okay, so the fund that we have, we are directly paying the utility company. So we will take your bill and pay the company. We will pay the landlord or the mortgage mortgage company, or we will pay for your groceries at a location. We are not providing direct checks to people's accounts. That is happening. That's happening through the federal government, where people are receiving, I think the number 1,200 may come up with a lot of people. People are getting $1,200 deposits in their account. That is a different program than the one that I'm talking about. That is run directly through the federal government.
And I just encourage you all that are out there to contact her directly if you need more information. Thank you, guys. Y'all stay safe at home. Wear your mask. Stay in social distance. Go to all of the council social media outlets and like us, and stay tuned. And again, this recording will be up tomorrow around noon, and as well as last week's, and we'll be here next week as well